So the shaila was, why did Neshama has to come down? Why must it be the Mitzarim Gvulim? Dafke. And the answer is Min HaMeitzar. Only Min HaMeitzar then, Karosiko then Anani Bamerchavka. Why? Because the Meitzar brings out the Avodah of Ma'alim Medida V'Akbala, Avodah of Tshuva. And as you said in the Isdalet, is Dafke the Avodah Min HaMeitzar that addresses the Oyev, the Helem, the Ra Helem, Helem Ra, the hidden Ra. What's the hidden Ra? What's the hidden Ra as opposed to not hidden Ra? Not hidden Ra is Pel Mamish, is Anhogel. The hidden Ra is Yeshes, etc. That's the hidden Ra. So the Min HaMeitzar,
it's not so hidden by everybody.
Yeah, not so hidden. So true. But that which he thinks is his problem of Yeshus, it's much deeper than that. We can fool ourselves even with our own, not even, it's dafke there, the assessment of our own Yeshus, but then it's a lot different. So what takes care of that is a humbled heart. It's the only solution to Yeshus is humility. And what induces humility is Min HaMeitzar. That's when the Neshama comes down. And through this, he's explaining, this is the Rusa de Liba, this is the Pnimius Alev. Through this, a Yid comes to Yofesh Achas B'tshuva Ma'asim Tovim B'Olam Hazeh. We call Chaya Ilam Abon. The diak was Tshuva Ma'asim Tovim again. Dafka Nilam Hazeh, because Dafka Nilam Hazeh, Torah mitzvahs and Tshuva comes at a price. There's no price up there. There is Torah mitzvahs up there, as the Malachim tinded, leave it with us. And even Tshuva, it's all a very nice Tshuva and a nice Torah mitzvahs. And it's not, there's no price to pay. Every day, wonderful day, and he's going to continue in his aliyah, he's in ascent, and nothing's holding him back, and life is wonderful. So it is wonderful. It is taka wonderful. But shaykhs to the merchav amiti, there isn't. So for this reason, the neshama comes lamata. Now we continue with zehu. You made the point you said before, just the previous point was that without the avodah of rusa de liba, even the avodah with esa koichas hanefesh, so less machshava tvisa be explained. Machshava goes on chachma. He brought the zoya machshava v'yuvala v'yoyvala. So less machshava tvisa be, because even the chachma is berira. With chachma there is birur, but the birur still leaves the ra. The ra is not behaving badly, but he's still ra. The mitzias ra means that's the mitzias of his fundamental resistance, really at the core, me. Meaning that everything he's doing really is for me. So the Metzias Sarah remains. So that can only be addressed not through the Avodah of that's a Kechas HaNefesh, but that has to be suffused with the Avodah of the Rusa de Liba. Zeo, continuing now then, so about 7 or 8 lines from the bottom, Zeo of Ois, hey. And that's what it means, that better one moment in order the avodah down here to be open the yofe, that it should be beautiful talk and greater than kol chayilam haba. It's not enough just doing the actions of it all. Has to be the tshuva, the min ha-meitzar. Tshuva ma'asim tovim. In other words, it's the diuk here is the chayra, first ma'asim tovim, then tshuva. First you got to do ma'asim. If you don't do ma'asim tovim, then there's the union of tshuva. Why does he put tshuva first? Because the tshuva, which is min ha-meitzar, that's the foundation of the whole avodah. Shekalolos avodas tshuva b'chele yatir. Tshuva is with greater koyach, shezeh rusa de liba. That's the desire of the heart, tough is bay, and therefore dafke here lamata, through this avodah, we grasp the Eibishter himself. So when the tshuva and the rusa de liba, the broken heart, the humbled heart is invested in his Torah mitzvahs, then they become the means that tough is bay, tvisa bay. Then avodah he is higher than chayilim above. And this is the aliyah. Shebeshvila kedai ha'irida the mayin basa. It's kedai that neshama should come down from ayin, ganed no alien. Shesham hoya mokim and neshamas keid midosam lamata. It's all kedai for the aliyah, all the travails. It's all kedai for the aliyah. So this explains, we're going to the Seder in Yonim. The Seder in Yonim is, it's Yes Mitzrayim, then you go to Yisrael, and then starts the whole Avodah of Minui Melech and Mechias Amalek and Binyan Beis HaBchira. So now he's going to explain all this in Avodah. So Lachayr is going out of Mitzrayim. What could be more than this? What could be more than this? He's ready now in the Eretz Teva Rechav, there's no more battles to fight. Apparently there is. Even after he comes out of Mitzrayim, this is he's quoting the pasuk here when Amalek attacked. Kasher avoid the b'chinas rusa deliba. In his avoid is taka rusa deliba. I get some shocking news here. Tchilas avoid that he b'mayim with the matzev in the beginning at least, the Maimon without the steps to follow, the Maimon the Matziv is Hashem remembers that we followed him, Melechtecha Acharai, you followed after me, but Midbar in the desert, Beretz Leizerua, in the land that is not seeded. So Pasha the Pshat is actually, it's Hashem is praising us, right? You followed me into the desert. This is part of the psukim of Zechroinus on Rosh Hashanah. But the diak is acharai, after me or behind me. Like he says in Torah, that even after this yes Mitzrayim, it's still missing pnimius. It's still an external avodah. You follow after me, as it were. And since it's unbelievable, the Yid's holding by its yes Mitzrayim. Loshen Hazoya, Aksa, delay, Meitzah delay. And he's crying min ha-Meitzah. And nonetheless, it's still far from Aveda B'Pnimius, and therefore, and therefore he's going to face an Amalek. And I don't think the battles are over. So you have to fight Amalek. But that requires to fight Amalek, you need Minui Melech to appoint the king. So what is this in Aveda? What's Amalek? He knows his master, his teacher, it intentionally rebels. And here, in this, he differs from all of the other nations. Like Bilam said, the pasuk says, Amalek, he was the first to attack the Eden when they left Mitzrayim. And it doesn't just mean in time that he's the first, but the Reish is the beginning. He's the beginning, he's the source of all Klippa, all of the other unholy nations. There are the nations which they represented, the 7 nations. Shem Shiva, is the 7 nations that occupy Yisrael, which correspond to the 7 midas of the Nefesh Bahamis. Then there's V'yashna Reishis Goyim, Shezeh Amalek, Shoreishis U'Markelehem. He is their source. Elaborates now. The Yinei Inyan Sheva U'Miz Ba'Avidas Adam Hey Sheva Midas Rois. What are the 7 nations? They all correspond to each one another of the negative midas. So there's negative love and negative yira, selfish love, selfish yira, and so And what drives all the midas? Pleasure, desire, right? Keep on quoting from this anonymous, for me it's anonymous, I don't recall who it was, but he said, maybe someone knows it, we can look it up. He said, either he was a philosopher or he was a famous psychologist. He said that all human endeavor can be distilled to the pursuit of pleasure and the distance of pain. That's it. Our pleasures are complex and our pains are complex, but that's what it comes down to. So that's the Sheva Midas. So when it comes to the taiva itself, if that's all it was, with the taiva we can restrain ourselves. How so? The fact is, Hashem made us in such a way, and whole Tanya is based on this, that when the mind reaches a conviction, it naturally controls the heart. But Tivah told us, if there's a real conviction, no matter what the heart feels, the mind will hold sway. A person really wants to smoke; he's even addicted, and he sees a picture of his lungs, and he understands with the seichel that the next cigarette's going to put him in the grave. He will not take it, even though physiologically he desires it and so on. But if there's a real conviction, he can't delude himself. That's the point of Tanya. He wants to make us understand in seichel, in chachma, bina, that's not enough, but in das, that every aved is aved zora and so on. And if we had that conviction, then as much as we want to, we wouldn't cross the line. So this is an aved which is inaccessible. Like Hashem is burning in above easily. It doesn't require minui melech. It's not a molek. It's not a molek. Hashem is burning above on the vasog and masimil midazo. So he faces a certain desire, a certain taiva, a certain weakness, anger, laziness, whatever it is, and he's misburning. He's misburning the damage that he's doing, where it comes from, etc. As much as he's inclined that way, he can control himself. Actually, until he's victorious. So this is possible through engaging mind over heart. When it comes to what? The midas, the 7 midas. Doesn't work for a molek. A molek, he knows. He come with the whole his bonus. I know. So jetzt you have on the vasoge. A molek understands. V'yafal pikein heis panim. So he knows everything and he understands it. Nonetheless, chutzpah heis panim. The audacity, heipech hayediyah, and will conduct himself opposite to that which he knows. And he does this intentionally. And adds in the brackets later, limrid beistam. It's not only he rebels, stam, and that if it happens to hurt you, no, I just want to do what I want to know. It's worse than that. This is his intent. In other words, even Klapim Maila, he knows that the Eibishter is, he knows that the Eibishter doesn't want it. He knows the Kavanah did it with Achtoinim. It's not just the damage down here to himself. He knows the damage, Kavayachal Maila. And it's Machavan Limrid Boy. Like we see as it was, Amalek in the literal story. After all the wonders, the whole world was in awe. He came and did battle. No one dared. He was the first. It actually explains, like a hot bath, that no one would dare enter. So he cooled it off, and then other people followed. Everybody else said, hey, they're not untouchable. Showing in ahead that he spied this Maria Selikus b'mucher. So what does it mean? That it spells it out for us. He sees the Elikus b'mucher, and he doesn't move him. The Gemara says that chutzpah, I don't know what, that's a mistake, that vav. Chutzpah malchus b'leitaged. That chutzpah is a kingdom that doesn't have a crown, and there's no end to chutzpah. Different meanings to b'leitaged. It just means that it's unlimited. B'leitaged, there's no cap, there's no crown on it. Another taich is Malchus has a crown. Chutzpah doesn't need a crown. Point being, and the connection to the crown is the rotzen, etc. It just ignores it all. Seen it all, know it all, and he's not nispal. And it's also that can be seen that Amalek have a problem here. Was he threatened? He wasn't threatened. Shebnei Yisrael outside Yidden will take his land. We're afraid. Which Yidden in the end will. But where he lived, they were not going there, and he was not threatened. So he had no beef. What's the expression? Yeah. Yafa became Bob Ma'atzmail, these goddess in Yisrael. He came, this goddess means to agitate, to aggravate. Can't stand it. Just cannot stand it. Now here the Rebbe spells it out for us. This is really hard hitting, no bars held back. Yeah. It could be Shalambris, he's bonanos, he's learned chassidus, and he's misboinen, and he knows the truth and doesn't deny it, and he's seen it. Because of his gasus and yeshes, he just cannot bear somebody else. The other person's presence is just, you're in my space, threatens me. Somebody else's success, nothing to do with me, but it just cannot stomach it. The other person is not disturbing him. In the the fact that somebody else, it distresses and also expression.
Irks him. It irks him.
Irks him, yeah, that's a good word. It irks him and distresses him. And he fights him. He'll find a way to discredit this person. He'll find a way to get to have him dismissed. A chutzpah that has no crown, no limit, no rationale. There's no rationale for this. What's the problem? The problem is that this person exists. And that diminishes my COVID. That takes away from the attention on me or my value. So he thinks. So friends, obviously this is, there's many levels to this. There's many levels. So Amalek knows his teacher. So if he knows everything and they come with all these bonus, he knows these bonus, he can teach it to somebody else. So Avona Vasoga is not going to help you. So we have to have the union of Mini Melech appointing a king. So again, this is a year that's holding by Tzias Mitzrayim. The Pil Mamash is breaking himself, and he's sincere about his own tshuva and his own minametza. At the same time, it's far from Aveda Pnimius, and so much so that he has to contend with Amalek, which is a completely irrational Aveda, which means it touches his etzem mitzias. Can you explain what the problem is with this person? No. Does he want something from you? No. He exists. He exists, threatens my etzem mitzias. So therefore, we need what the Aveda of Mini Melech. So what's Mini Melech and Aveda? I'm just, I don't know if this is related at all entirely, but Tavshin Chavalev, I didn't know this. I read the interview of Vichemei Gerari, one of the Kvachabads before Yud Shvat. I have to look at the Farbrengen. He said the Rebbe said it, and at the end of the Farbrengen, the Rebbe cut it short. There was in deep distress, pain, and finished the Farbrengen early because of something that was going on. So I called him. Doesn't say what. I called him, asked him, read the interview. What was it? He said, he doesn't know exactly, but there's something internal in the community, Crown Heights. It wasn't amongst the Chassidim. It wasn't a world thing. So the story there is about the Bachim that went from Montreal, from Yeshiva. They were very upset. And through Rabbi Greenglass, they wrote a letter to the Rebbe. How could they bring the Rebbe Simcha? So they got a beautiful long letter back. And the first Rebbe says, like, it's not a mystery how to bring Simcha. Do what you have to do and the Avodah and this. But I'm just saying, this could be completely unrelated, but these strong words here. I don't know if by Purim they fixed the problem there in Crown Heights or not. If I'm not mistaken, it had to do with literally the shchuna, the neighborhood, and the whole the neighborhood, the settlement of the neighborhood. I don't know. It was some internal achloikis that caused them much pain. So what's the h'tשכ molik is minui melech. Baruch b'mitzvahs minui melech, as explained in Derech Mitzvah of the Tzemach Tzedek, where he explains the mitzvah of appointing a king of Bekama Drushim. And in other Moishe, that the Lechir in the move of Ma'at said of minui melech, why would the Jews need a king? The pasuk says, Shmuel said, Hashem, your Lord, is your king. And the Yidden are coming and asking. So there's a whole arichas there, and the whole shaila, because the Torah says, the Torah makes it one of the mitzvahs. It's one of the Torah mitzvahs. Same Torah we're learning now. It's one of the chiyuvim. But the question is why, and why did Shmuel criticize them when they asked for it? If it's a mitzvah, the whole answer why they asked for it. They asked for it because they wanted to be able to give everybody else. But that was wrong. Everybody else has a king. We also want one. But the Pnimius is, you've been Malchus David. When I look at Malchus David and understand the mile and the union of Minui Melech, that the Malchus was given to David and his seed forever. The Melech HaMashiach comes from David. What's David? Is Bittel. It's kind of an oath he's saying that I am Shivisi, I am the Mamti still, but the Mamti in silent. The less the Magamoklum, the Melech is Malchus, and Malchus has nothing of its own. Really a reflection of the oil that's projected to it. V'davke mitzad bittul betachlis. So it's davke because of this bittul. Omar arimimcha lakaya melech. So before we went talking about the avodah of bittul, the Rusa de Liba is not so much bittul. It's tshuva and it's brokenness. There's an element of bittul there. But this is a deeper avodah. The difference is that there, he's broken over his Avedas. The Meitzah. He's in a Meitzah. Here it's the pure Bittul. And Dafka through Bittul Arimimcha Lakaya Melech, I exalt you, my Lord, King. Not only he himself through his Bittul merited the true Avodah of walking before Hashem in broadness, and what's his avodah? He pales like everything he does, and exaltedness in the Eibishter's attribute of kingship. So what is it that spells it out to us? What's the avodah of Minui Melech? Vinyone ba'avodah sa'odom b'chol yoyim ha'avodah de kriya shema shekololis in yondom mesidas nefesh v'kabbalas oil. B'proti is yoyse more detail in the kabbalas oil malchus shemaya. Not so much mesidas nefesh, but the kabbalas oil is the nekuda. Mesidas nefesh could be even without the deep kabbalas oil. Like I said before, his Yitzias Mitzrayim, he even called it b'chol ma'itcha. But then there's a more foundational thing. Pasha Kabbalah Yisrael, the Shema Yisrael itself, even before and after the Shema Lakecha B'Chalavavcha, the Shema Yisrael. K'may Merazal, the Gemara says in Berachas, Lama Kodma Parsha Shema, the V'hoyim Shemaya. Why do we say Shema before V'hoyim Shemaya? I mean, even though it appears earlier in Veschanan, V'hoyim Shemaya is in Parshas Eikev, was the Gemara Shaila. But the Gemara Shaila, but we see that it doesn't follow the order in the Torah, because we say the third Parsha Vayomer, and that's in Parshas Shlach. In Bamidbar. So we see the Chachamim did not establish the Parshas al pi seder HaTorah. So why do we say Shema before? If I'm not mistaken, one of the shilas is that we'd expect V'hoyim Shemaya to be first, because V'hoyim Shemaya speaks in the plural to everybody. And the Shema is the singular. So first the collective commandment, and then the individual. So the answer Gemara says Kadeshi Kabbalah all of El Nachal Shemaim Tchila. First Shema Yisrael, because first has to be Kabbalah Soil. Yachach Makabbalah of El Mitzvahs V'Mishmar Tishmel Mitzvah Yisai. Behind Oshinyan Min Melech. What's Min Melech? Same to us Melech HaMelech. And Leman is Al Atzmoi as a Malchus Shalamayla to appoint over himself God's sovereignty. Kabbalah El Malchus Shemayim. The Kabbalah Sel mitzvahs, and then he can go and accept the Avodah of El mitzvahs. Fundamentally being an Eved. That's Kabbalah Sel. He is fundamentally an Eved. Now go on and do what you have to do. Till now, he spoke about Mina Meitza was in the Avodah. He sins now, mitzvahs, he's pushing himself. It's all good, but that could happen, he's saying. This is quite incredible. There can be the Avodah of Yitzias Mitzrayim, it lacks Kabbalah Sel. Not an Eved. Min HaMeitzah and everything else, but he's not an Eved. So Shezeh in Tshuva Ma'asim Tovim. This is the true Tshuva Ma'asim Tovim. No, I'm sorry, the Kabbalah Sel mitzvahs. That is then the Tshuva Ma'asim Tovim. Yidin Kabbalah Sel Minui Melech. So through the Akdama of Minui Melech, Menatzchem b'Milchemes Amalek. So this is by which we defeat Amalek, Shebetchilas Avodah, that's going to be there right away, La'achar Yitzias Mitzrayim. And we don't mean, of course, that it's Betchilas Avodah, you never have to deal with this again, this is ongoing. But he's saying Betchila in the whole process of being described here, until he comes to the good land, broad land, as it's described in the Pasuk, which is a reference, the Rechava to the Merchav Atzma. Yeah. Speak a little louder.
Wouldn't Kabbalah Sa'il mitzvahs imply, what are you being Kabbalah here? If it's not because of Kabbalah Shemai. So how can you have to, why would someone have Kabbalah mitzvahs?
Why? To accept the yoke of mitzvahs to get Gan Eden, to be a chassid, there are a lot of agendas. Accepting the yoke, it's going to do it. What's the agenda? The agenda is tshuva, whatever is in Yonimah. Kabbalah certainly speaks here is fundamentally, what are you?
That's the
Minui Melech.
That's the overcome Titus.
Huh?
You said in the previous paragraph that's overcoming the Titus.
Yeah, you can overcome, in other words, you can overcome the Taivas when you make a cheshbon that the Taiva of Yiddishkeit is greater. You look at the loss. Yiddishkeit is more pleasurable in this world, the next world. He makes a cheshbon. He's against the Taiva, that it's not worth it.
To my Tanvadas, that
Yeah.
better for me than that.
Right. In other words, it can be a Kabbalah Sa'il. In other words, you want to be strong, to go to the gym. You wake up in the morning, I don't want to go to the gym. Kabbalah Sa'il goes to the gym. So he's pushing himself, rather sleep in. But this is not a Kabbalah Sa'il, it's the Ma'anim Tanvadas. You understand, made that commitment. You want to be strong. You've got to push those weights. So he forces himself out of bed. That's not a real Kabbalah Sa'il. Kabbalah Sa'il is fundamentally Vebista. Who are you? The Eved. You're the Eved of the Melech. Before you do anything, what are you? Now the Melech says, go do this. Okay, she's going to go and do it. But his whole lifestyle, it comes next. It's fundamentally, who are you? It's a whole different, it's a different kind of Kabbalah sale.